G'day guys, welcome to this Aussie English interview. Today I've got a special guest for you, Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages. So you can definitely check her out on YouTube and Facebook, and it'll be linked below, I'm sure, wherever this ends up being posted. So I guess we'll just dive straight into it and Lindsay can introduce herself and then we'll just start chatting away for you guys.
Okay, so hello. My name is Lindsay and I'm not from Australia, so I don't speak Aussie English. I actually speak British English. But yeah, so I run Lindsay Does Languages over at lindsaydoeslanguages.com, and it started back in 2012 when I hated my job and I'd been teaching part-time, so I decided, you know what? This is what I want to do. I'm going to do this instead. So I left and I went to do that. And I was teaching it sort of face-to-face in real life. Then in 2014, I moved online and it's been online ever since. Teaching languages online courses, all of that kind of thing. So it's good fun.
That's amazing. So your main living is just through obviously teaching English and tutoring and having courses and stuff online?
Yeah.
And then the language learning side of it is all just a hobby that you've gotten into more recently since that?
Well, I don't know about more recently. So the first foreign language that I started to study was French, and that was in primary school. So probably about age 7 or 8. And I went because it was an extracurricular club at this point. Languages weren't compulsory in the UK in primary school at this time. Now they are, thankfully. But it wasn't compulsory. So it was extracurricular, but I kept going because they gave us croissants and orange juice at the end of term. So it was like, well, this is, French club is worth it. We just play games and, then get croissants. It's good. I'm going to do this. And then, so I, it wasn't really a thing that I thought about or that I kind of I didn't seek it out to do. I just did it. And then it wasn't until I was about 13, 14 and I had to pick my GCSEs. So those first exams you do kind of age 14 to 16 here in the UK. And I wanted to do Spanish because Shakira had just released her first English album and it had a few Spanish songs on. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to learn Spanish. I already can do French. It's going to be easy. It's fine. And I remember, I think probably my 13th birthday, something like that. I sat there in my grandparents' kitchen with this little tiny Spanish dictionary and a Spanish Shakira album. And I was looking at the lyrics booklet and then looking to the dictionary, none of it made sense. Shakira lyrics, not a great place to start learning Spanish. Not exactly the easiest thing. But yeah, that was.
And doesn't she switch between languages too?
Yeah.
Right? She sings in Portuguese, English and...
Yeah, I mean, this album I had was pure Spanish, but if you know, the style, whenever, wherever, it's lucky that my breasts are small and humble so you don't confuse them with mountains. This is it, this is what I'm starting with, no hola, que tal, nothing like that, straight in to the deep end. But that's really, I think that was a real sort of passion, so that it was something I wanted to do from Spanish.
Yep.
And then I think from there, it just evolved and it just kind of snowballed into this thing of, I remember I had a Spanish teacher at one point who said, oh yeah, it's fine. You guys, you can speak Spanish now. So you could go and live in Italy or Portugal for a year and you'd pick up the language really easily. I was like, oh, what? This is amazing. And I kind of realized then that knowing French and Spanish kind of accidentally falling into my life had then opened these doors to other languages a lot easier. And from there, it's like a ripple, you drop a pebble in a pond and it just kind of evolves from there, really. Yeah.
So do you think that it's that, I guess, that addiction to learning that has really kept you going, that momentum, as well as, I guess, obviously the secondary side of it of having other cultures to learn and other ways of thinking, other people to meet, but primarily just those initial gains that you get when you first start learning a language, is that the addictive part for you?
Pretty much everything you've said is why I learn languages. It is that, I guess, I don't know, I don't like the word addiction, but yeah, I guess maybe it is an addiction to learning new stuff because of what it leads to. And for me, there's a lot online about, learning, and it's often described in a way of learning to speak another language. But for me, that's almost like a secondary gain, because that initial thing is I enjoy the process, and this process enables me to understand different people, different cultures, and to kind of gain more tolerance, which, doesn't necessarily for me involve speaking directly to people. It's more about understanding the world around me if I'm traveling or whatever. And then being able to actually speak with people is like a bonus of like, oh, and now I've learned this, I can actually communicate as well. And I don't know, that's kind of, it's interesting to me how a lot of people, it seems, it's the other way around. And there's no right or wrong, of course. But yeah, that's just how I see it.
Yeah, that's so funny because I guess it must be a little bit different in England because you obviously have so many countries in Europe right next door, effectively, where you have unlimited choice between useful languages. Whereas in Australia, obviously, it's very difficult for us to really get motivated, I think, to learn any one language because our neighbors, first and foremost, I guess, are all Asian countries. And so there's a big difference. The gap between, say, you know, Indonesian or Chinese and English is so huge.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, obviously, if you're from England and you can just learn French, which is 70%, you know, there's at least a lot of crossover.
This is true.
I can imagine it's a little bit more motivating.
I'm curious, actually, in schools in Australia, what it generally is the kind of foreign language that would be taught, or foreign languages. What's the kind of order? It's
so random. It is
really?
So random. When I was in first primary school, I learnt Japanese for maybe 2 or 3 years before I moved primary schools, and then they had Indonesian. And so I think Indonesian, at least at primary schools and some high schools, is very, very, very popular because it's obviously so close. Mm. And there are obviously, I think, a lot of Australians who go there, learn Indonesian, come back, and they're teachers and they can, you know, teach it. But then I went to a private school, and so it was very snobby, and we had like Latin, French, and I also learned Chinese. So I only did French and Chinese. There was Latin as well, but I was like, that's beyond me and useless.
Yeah.
But like your story with, learning a language earlier on in life, obviously not primary school for me, but in high school, I did French for 6 years and I got to a lower intermediate level. And then I think only 10 years later, so last year, I just decided I want to learn another language to fluency, at least basic fluency. And that's when my journey began, only more recently, for the love of language learning.
That's cool. I mean, and this is the thing that's interesting, I think, is since kind of the internet became more of a thing, I've definitely noticed, especially since 2014, when I started blogging for Lindsay Does Languages, and I thought, well, if I'm going to write about language learning, I need to be learning a language, and no one wants to. At the time, right. You know, I was still studying. I did my degree part-time distance learning, so I was still doing that at the time. But I figured, well, no one wants to read about that. It's just boring, kind of academic stuff that I'm doing. You know, I need to be learning a new language to kind of like give people something interesting to read. And ever since then,
and that's what blew my mind as well.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. That's what blew my mind with a lot of English teachers. Looking back, now I've started to try and sort of dabble in just teaching English from a native perspective more so than from a teacher's perspective. But it seems like so many English teachers don't speak foreign languages.
Yeah.
And yet it's sort of like you lack a massive understanding of what your students are going through if you haven't had to go through that same process, right?
Agreed. And I think because part of teaching anything, you know, in particular teaching languages, because, you know, we look at that and like we both did French in school, it was kind of thrust upon us almost. But what is good if you have a good French teacher in school? Well, here's the thing, we start with the negative. If you have a bad French teacher in school, it kind of puts you off languages for life. I think there's a lot of people in the UK who feel like, hated French at school, couldn't do it, bad teacher, I haven't got the gene, I'm not good at languages, I've not got that talent or that gift. And that's because of that thing at school, you know, that kind of idea of they couldn't do French. Whereas if you've got a teacher who actually, as well as teaching you French or Spanish or whatever, teaches you how to learn a language, then that is then giving you the kind of the steps to go on. Because I feel like we're all interested in someone else, right? We all want to know, whether it's like ancestral reasons, whether it's kind of travel or just curiosity, or we love the food of somewhere, whatever it could be. There's a language that anyone could learn. We've all got a passion for something, but that passion is so often kind of driven out of us in school by thinking, it's not my thing. It was not my talent.
That's it. I think
It's a shame.
that comes back so much to, I think the whole journey for me started with Benny Lewis. I think I'm sure that would have been one of those first videos that I saw with his original TED talk where he was like, yeah, I was awful. And then all of a sudden I started learning, basic fluency in languages within 3 months at a time. And I was like, far out. I never even thought of it that way, about not worrying about mistakes. I went to school and they would hammer the hell out of you for that's incorrect grammar. You said instead of de after this verb in French, like wrong. And you're just like, you got to teach to create and teach people to be inspired and passionate without the fear of making mistakes, to be able to excel, for them to be able to really take off.
I actually, one thing I'm really passionate about is like using social media for language learning. And one thing I do with Snapchat is I use it, and you could do this easily anywhere. Instagram stories now is pretty much the same thing, right? But one thing I do with Snapchat is I'll set myself a mistake goal for every now and then. I'll think, right, I want to speak. I haven't spoken in ages. I need to kind of produce some of this language. I say, right, I'm going to make 5 mistakes today in Indonesian, for example. And I'll just film myself talking or practicing what I've been learning, watch it back and be like, that vowel's wrong, or that word is wrong, or whatever. Keep a little tally. And then, I'm kind of, because if we see a mistake as a positive, because mistakes need to happen to improve in a language, right? But if we see it like we're in school, like no, and you're trying to avoid it all the time, you're never actually going to go forward. Whereas if you actually say to yourself, I'm going to make mistakes and make it into something you aim for, then you're going to be going in the right direction.
Could you imagine if that had been my French, Madame Mirza in French class was like, okay, whoever gets the most mistakes wrong or whoever makes the most mistakes today wins. And you'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to just keep talking. I don't care.
Yeah,
and then, you get a candy.
Yeah, they give the sweets out when you get it right, don't they? Yeah, I've never thought of that. They should give the sweets out when you make mistakes.
It's so funny. I always mention this to my listeners, and I'm always telling them that every time I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and my coach always says to me, every time I get something wrong or I do something incorrectly and I'm like, damn it. He's always like, Peter, I've made more mistakes than you have even tried. More times you have even tried. Like, he's always like, you need to make more. Come on, do this. Stop. It doesn't matter. No one cares. And I say that to the English students I have. I'm like, man, every mistake is something learned. You haven't lost anything. You've gained. You gained. That's XP. That's XP points. Like,
yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
Exactly. So I think, you're right. Definitely. The biggest thing I think in language learning is that just the way people perceive mistakes and errors, and if they can get past that, caring about that crap. And it's funny too, because I feel like once I started learning another language and appreciated just how that felt to be in those positions where you're making errors and you're having to put yourself out there and look like an idiot, I had so much more patience for English as second learners, English as a second language learners, because I just suddenly realized, I'm like, oh my God, dude, I know exactly what you're trying to say and I know how you feel. If you want me to correct you, I can, or we can just keep talking, but just keep going. Like, it's fine.
Yes. I often say, a lot of what I teach now is teaching French and Spanish to English learners. But either way, I say like, right, speak. And then I'll be like, I'll be like, right, I understood everything that you said. I understood everything that you wanted to say. There were mistakes, but it's fine because your message got across, and that's all that matters, really.
Exactly.
There's so many other kind of tools we can use. Use your body language, play charades a little bit, and if that gets the point across, and that's all good.
It makes things so much more, I guess, spontaneous and fun, right? Like, the mistakes kind of bring a bit of humor to conversations. And so, it sort of breaks the ice, right? Like, you can sort of be like, lol, you just said the word. Like, I remember in French, I used to always say, je suis excité, for like, I'm excited. And then one of my friends was like, dude, you just said you're turned on. You can't say that. You can't say that. It's like a sexual thing. And I'm like, I'm like, but you knew that wasn't what I meant, but it's fine, And
you're never going to forget that now. So it's in there.
Exactly.
You've learned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So how many languages would you say you speak?
Oh, okay. This is a tough question because, and this is what I meant when I say...
That's why I love it.
Yeah. This is what I meant when I said how it's often referred to in terms of how many languages do you speak. It's the speak that is always the word, right? So I think to different levels, I've studied, is the way I've studied. So kind of in order of where we're at. French and Spanish, probably the strongest. And then
Yep.
varying order depending on where I am. We're talking German, Portuguese, Italian, and then Dutch is kind of below that. It's like, I used to be really good, but now I just don't practice. And then a little bit of Chinese, bit of Japanese, teeny tiny bit of Korean I did earlier this year, and some Esperanto, and now Indonesian.
Far
I
out.
think we're at 11 at the minute, but like, and I here's the thing, I don't want to say that like in terms of like, I speak 11 languages. It's so impressive.
No, definitely,
you know
definitely.
what I
That's
mean?
why I love this question,
Yeah.
because it's such a good way of getting people to be honest and open about what it actually takes to get to native level in any language and then maintain that. That's what I didn't realize when I first started learning French and got to a high level. And as soon as I stopped, it was like, it didn't disappear overnight, but it definitely did decline. And once you get to 3 or 4 languages, it's like
How do you
the
balance?
more balls in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
you
what
just
advice
can't
would you have?
maintain that number of languages, you know? And like, it's like, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be going to Holland anytime soon. I went last month, but I'm not going to be going, you know, I don't have plans to kind of use that language anytime soon. So it's like, well, there's no need to focus on it right now, but it's kind of, there's a bit of it there, rusting in a box at the back of my brain, ready to be
definitely
polished up when needed.
It is somewhat like riding a bike, right? Like, I mean, you're not going to get back on the bike and be amazing, but you can get back on and then feel your way around. And
Exactly. Yeah.
so what do you do in order to maintain the ones that you are focusing on, and how many would you actively try and maintain? Like, I take it you have a certain amount of time each day that you would allocate, whether it's to 11 or just to one language. And so that's how do you partition that up, and what's your goal?
Another really good question, because a lot of the time I think people say, one language at a time, you know, but for me, I've ever since I started Spanish, because the thing was, when I wanted to do Spanish, we were talking about how I wanted to do it when I was like 13, to do that for the school to let me do Spanish, they said, you have to keep on doing French. It was like to prove that you could do languages. Right? I was like, fine, I'll keep with French, whatever. It'll be useful, maybe, I don't know. So I did both. And ever since then, I've always been learning multiple languages, because it was kind of thrust upon me. I was like forced into this situation of doing multiple languages. So I've been okay at managing that. At one point, a couple of years ago, I was actually doing 4 different languages, because I had French and German, which were like I was studying properly with my university. And then I was doing a little bit of Dutch, kind of talking, mostly speaking, and Portuguese, I was mostly speaking practice and like italki and stuff. Yeah. And so I had these 4 languages on the go. And, you know, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. You know, it was a really, really busy time, but it was fun. Whereas now, actually, what's happening at the moment with Indonesian is this is a language, whereas before it's been a case of, I think with the exceptions of French and Spanish, it's mostly been a case of like, I'm curious. I just want to go and have a little look and see what's going on. Okay, let's go over here now. You know, whereas Indonesian, it is one that I do want to perhaps get a little bit stronger in. So I am focusing on only one at the moment. But that's not to say that if, I don't know, like a German song comes on a playlist, I'm going to go, no, turn it off. You know, I do try just to get a little bit in. So what I find really useful, I have my, I call it like language hour. And I have in the morning from kind of 7 to 8 a.m. where that's generally like, that's my study time kind of carved out of my routine to make sure I get something done. So at the minute that is focused primarily on Indonesian. And there's, you know, various resources and things I'll be using for that. And then mostly when I'm working in the day, obviously I'm quite lucky. I like working with Lindsay Does Languages. I work from home. I don't have to like go to an office and work with other people around. So I'm able to listen to podcasts. So I listen to news podcasts. A really good one actually is Australian. SBS.
SBS. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
I know. How good is it?
So many languages.
It's because there's so many groups here.
Yeah. Just like little daily nuggets of, you know, really short. So it's like, I don't understand everything I listen to on that, but I listen to that. And NHK News is another really good one. They've got kind of 15 minutes. And because it's, you know, it's topical, you have an idea when they go, Donald Trump, you're like, okay, I know what we're talking about now. So that's something I do is listen to more or less all of those languages a little bit every day. I try to.
Yeah. Is that something you would definitely recommend for at least basic maintenance when you have learned a language up? So say for like all the English learners who are listening to this podcast right now, if you're not necessarily in America or England or Australia and you can't necessarily speak with native speakers, would the one thing you'd recommend doing be at least listening as much as possible, or even just a little bit every single day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because that kind of, it's about sort of creating that immersive environment, and I think listening is a really relatively easy way to do that. You know, you've got so many options. There's podcasts, there's radio that you could listen to. There's actual kind of language learning specific podcasts, especially Aussie English podcasts, right? You've got like YouTube and video. There's like audio courses. There's so many options, and I think it's something that's a bit easier to fit in as well. Like reading is great. I love kind of reading and trying to decipher things in different languages, but you have to be, your eyes have to be in that. Whereas if you're driving, you can't be reading. But you can be listening.
That's what I found too with like just walking. Every day I was walking for 40 minutes, and that's how I found the Français Authentique podcast. And I would just listen every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's so dense, right? Because half an hour, you can get thousands and thousands of words effectively just drenched into your head.
And
whereas reading, you can maybe slow, it may be really hard to concentrate that hard.
Yeah, because you can kind of take it as you want. If like when I'm working and I'm listening to these news podcasts in different languages, I'm not taking everything in. I haven't got like a vocab list, but it's just very passive. And very kind of, I don't know, with reading, I think you can call it like intensive and extensive. I don't know if that really works for listening, extensive listening. Not really.
Yeah.
But you can make it intensive.
Unless it's with like a transcript.
Yeah, right? You can kind of then take it as intensive as you want. You can then slow down the podcast. You can like write down all the words you know. Or, you could really take one piece of audio and just go all out with it. So
I love doing that. I absolutely love that. I got the Assimil course for Portuguese, and it would just be like 2 minutes and you would just go over it again and again all day. And then by the end of it, you're like, far out. That's just, it's in my head now.
Yeah.
Like
it's a very, very useful tool, I think, listening practice.
So what advice would you have for specifically English as a second language learners getting from the intermediate to advanced stages, whether it's something you've gone through with your own students, or whether it's something you do personally when trying to get through that stage? Because I know that's a really difficult one for me. It's always getting to the intermediate one's fun and it's easy, but then really forcing yourself to get to that advanced stage is the hard bit that can be demotivating. And
this is true. I went to Canada. There was the first North American Polyglot Symposium. I think they've changed the name this year. I think it's called Langfest or Lang Festival Montreal now. But I went there earlier this year, and Steve Kaufman, the guy behind Link, did this amazing talk where he talks about that like a kind of reverse hockey stick. So when you first start learning a language, you got this upside down hockey stick, and you're at the I don't know the names of the hockey stick. You're at the foot of it, and you make lots of quick progress, and you're like, Phew! And then from there is just that slow drag and
the slow grind.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe it, and that's really stuck with me because it is that, and it is hard to then keep going because you feel like, well, I'm okay in this language now. Maybe I'll kind of stop here and go and learn something else, or go and spend my time doing something else. But I think what's crucial at that point is at any stage, is to find something that you love in that language. So, that could be anything. It could be that you kind of delve a little bit deeper into the culture, and then you say, this is really interesting. I really want to visit this place, or I really want to go and see what that thing looks like. Or it could be that you find a TV show that you love, or a particular like film director or an author or a musician, something that is just then becomes your kind of connection. So like for me, with Spanish, it was Shakira. That was really easy because it was from the beginning. But then with other languages, it's been something that I've had to kind of find, like with Korean, a lot of people go on about like K-pop and K-drama. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really into that, but I found one K-drama that I really watched and I really enjoyed, and it was like, this is it. This is my thing. You almost feel like it's like your buddy, you know. Oh, me and Boys Over
This is
Flowers.
my jam.
Yeah, this is me. And I think that's really important.
That's so true.
Because you know, you otherwise that long slow is what I was going for. That long slow drag just becomes longer and slower. But if you've got a reason, if you've got a kind of a purpose that you actually care about, then that's going to really help to make it more enjoyable.
I guess it's sort of like having a job you love versus one you hate, right? Like they could both pay the same and you're getting the same sort of recompense, but one of them is awful and, you know, you may be progressing, but it's painful, whereas the other one doesn't even feel like work and you could just do it and all of a sudden the day's over and you're like, can I do more? This
fits as well with resources. You know, if you've got a resource that is just, so dull, then that is like the job you hate is that. And if it becomes a chore, if language learning ever becomes a chore, then you need to mix things up. Because it doesn't mean... That's when I know
it's time, right? Yeah. Like as soon as you get bored, you're just like, try something else. Do something else.
Because there's always going to be something else. Especially, you know, we've mentioned the internet, especially now with the internet, there's always going to be something else in the language you're learning.
Yeah, that's true.
You can kind of venture into.
That's true. I think as a personal anecdote, I think recently I was using Anki all year for Portuguese. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I've had enough for now. I need something different. And I started reading The Walking Dead in Portuguese,
like the comic
in Brazilian Portuguese. Yeah, the comic. And I've never read a comic, but I love the show. And so I was like, well, I'll read the comics and I'll practice Portuguese. So we'll get those two things to overlap. And all of a sudden I was like up every night until like 3 a.m. reading hundreds of pages of this comic. And I was like, far out. That was what it took. You just had to try something different. Yeah. So it's pretty funny.
That is funny. And that's a really good example because often I find, that, you know, with kind of, I guess, globalization, there will be something, even if you can't find something right now, like that is natively made in that language that you love, then there's going to be something that's probably been translated or, you know, like that book, The Waking Dead comic isn't originally in Portuguese, right? I don't think. But, you know, there's something that you can kind of draw from and think, well, I love this in my language, so is that there in English? Yeah.
It's so funny because I always have English student envy where they have, I feel like that English is the only language where no matter what language you speak as a native, you're coming into a bigger set of material, right? Whereas like I want to start Icelandic in maybe a year and I know that that's going to go from out here in English to beep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is true.
So it's so funny. All of them were always like, what do you mean there's no materials? There's heaps in English.
It's interesting. I think, it can almost be a blessing and a curse or a curse because, you know, having so much stuff learning English, it could be like, this is amazing. Whatever I want, I just pluck it out and it's there. Or it could be a case of, what is all this stuff? I'm so overwhelmed. Yeah. This is crazy. I mean, I'm finding now with Indonesian that at first I had a teach yourself book set with CDs and whatnot. And I was like, this is cool. I've got something to go with. And I thought, this is probably all I'm going to really have. But the more I've delved into it, the more there is. And like, you know, little kind of, there's a surprising amount of like news podcasts in Indonesian and things like this. And I'm kind of like expanding gradually. And now I'm almost like, whoa, so much stuff going on. I need to rein it back in.
That is so funny that you found the Indonesian SBS podcast because I was thinking when you were saying that there must be so much Australian stuff with Indonesian in it because it's everywhere.
There is. I think there's another one that I have that is Australian as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Man, so changing the subject a little bit, I wanted to get on to how you would sum up the main differences, obviously, between British English and Australian English. So how do you view the two?
I think I kind of consider them more similar than British and US English. And so often it's a case of British versus American English. Like, you know, they're kind of, you'll see a word spelled and you'll be like, oh, it's American spelling. Yeah. You know, I mean, how do you spell the word colour, for example?
Yeah, exactly the same way as you.
Right.
COLOUR. Yeah.
So it's like we're like allies in that sense. We've kind of got something in common. But then I think there's a few words. Like I remember once I went to Costa Rica and I was teaching English, and there was a girl there who was Australian. And she's like talking about her thongs, and she's like, "Gonna go down to the beach, get my thongs out my bag." I'm like, "Why is she going to the beach? Why is she telling me that she's gonna go and wear her thongs at the beach?"
And why does she have more than one?
Why plural? Yeah. Oh dear, my goodness, who is this person? No, she's talking about her flip flops, and that's my kind of favorite example. And then there's there's a few kind of like stereotypical examples of Aussie English that we have, like throw another shrimp on the barbie is the one that people would automatically go to, I think.
Thank you, Paul Hogan. Yeah. Thank you, Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah. But I mean, do you have...
Little did he know.
Yeah. What was he creating? Do you have any kind of words you wanted to share?
Oh, definitely. Okay. I was going to do the 5-word guessing game.
Okay.
So I guess we can start. So I guess for the listeners, we'd plan to sort of talk to each other about 5 different slang words in Australian English versus British English and see if the other person could work out what that word meant or guess at it or have any idea. So I thought that'd be a fun game to do.
That'd be fun.
So do you want me to start?
Go for it.
All right. A durry.
Durry.
Yeah, so durry spelled D-U-R-R-Y. Or it could be I-E, I think, because it's slang, so it could be either, but okay. D-U-R-R and then E. A durry.
Is it... a durry. Is it... Oh, there's no way of saying this without sounding incredibly stereotypical.
Mate, go for it.
The two things I have in my mind. One is a can of beer.
Oh, so close.
Am I close? Okay. In that case, I'm going to stick with this. Is it a beer can holder? Like the thing that... No?
No.
Okay.
I can't even think of the word at the moment for that. I'm a terrible Australian.
There is a word, isn't there? There's an Australian word for that.
There is, but it's just disappeared from my mind. A durry is a cigarette.
Oh.
So it was close. They were both drugs.
Do you know what we would call that?
What? A fag.
Yeah, a fag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a cigarette.
It's so funny because durry is one of those ones all Australians know, but probably only bogans use. Like the very lower, very stereotypical Australians would ever actually call it a durry. I think most people would just call it, like you, a ciggy or a fag or a cigarette.
We need to like backtrack. What's a bogan? A bogan?
I guess I could just assume everyone knows what that is. A bogan is, without wanting to sound incredibly horrible, it's someone of very lower education or behaviour, very rude, uncouth behaviour in public. So someone who dresses very poorly, who swears a lot, is very loud, smokes and drinks in public. I think the equivalent in England would be a chav.
Right, I was thinking possibly chav would be the word we would use. Yeah, okay. And
so I think originally bogan would have been like not at all. Like it's not a rude word or anything, right. But if you were to call, I think bogan is the kind of word where everyone uses it to explain someone else, but never uses it to explain themselves. Okay. Right? Like
chav. Yes. That makes sense.
That's it. What about you? Have you got any for me?
Okay, my first word is gutted.
Gutted. I would have thought that would be like, I'm upset, I'm gutted.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we would use that in English. Yeah, we would use that in Australian English.
Oh,
I'm so gutted.
This was above my head. I was like, I don't know which ones you would use or not. Okay, so gutted means like I'm disappointed. Oh, I'm so upset about something.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder though, half the time I'm always thinking with these slang terms that I know from England or from America or that I use, I'm like, is it just that we've absorbed those through TV where we've seen someone in England or...
Yeah. I don't
know. Whereas no one watches Australian TV, so they don't get any of our slang.
Oh, I do. There is a TV show on Amazon Prime right now here in the UK called Please Like Me.
I don't know that.
It's really good.
No, I haven't heard of it.
It is Australian. It's the main guy is a guy called Josh Thomas, I think.
Oh, the comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he does not sound Australian in my mind.
He's very, very, very flamboyant. So he has a very bizarre accent.
Yeah, his accent is like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? Yeah, really interesting.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, it is quite funny. It's a good show.
Oh, cool.
Okay, you want to go next?
You get two. I already had two, so you got another one.
My next one is dodgy.
Dodgy. See, that's one we use in English as well for something that's shoddy or doesn't work very well.
Oh, you know my words. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Man, you got to go hard. You got to go really hard. Like, those ones are probably that old that they've been used in both English and Australian English for a long time.
Okay.
Like if I were to say bugger.
I knew not to put that one in because I knew you would say that. So this is my problem is when I think of these words.
Never.
I was trying to think of like, I can't imagine an American accent saying that word. So maybe you don't too. Apparently you do. Dodgy.
Let's see.
Okay. I'll go for another one. I'm going to go until I get one.
Do it.
The next one is flat.
Flat?
Mm-hmm.
Like flat as in the opposite of...
No.
Uneven or... Okay.
I can't tell you... If I say flat as in, then it will give away from the as in
I don't
word.
know. Yeah, that I think... At least if I don't have any idea with regards to the English version, but in English, in Australian English, I think if I were to say I was feeling flat or if I was flat, it would be that I just felt tired, you know.
We could say that.
I don't know.
I feel a bit flat today, yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of, and that wouldn't be, I wouldn't say that's slang.
So I've got one. Okay, yeah, this is not slang, this one. This is just like a regular word that I think is different for you. So a flat is an apartment.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Would you use that?
Yeah.
You would? Oh!
Yeah.
Okay.
It was hard, though. It was hard because I didn't have the context in this, but I know,
Okay.
What would we say? I don't even know how to define the difference between a flat and an apartment. I think a flat would be in a building, right? As opposed to, I don't even know.
Here it's generally the
That's a
same.
difficult one.
I think the only difference here, they're used pretty much interchangeably, but generally if people say they live in an apartment, that it sounds like they're trying to better themselves. Like, I live in an apartment.
Oh, really?
Like, flat sounds okay. In my mind, it's okay.
Yeah.
I live in a flat, in the flat, but some people, if they say, in my apartment, it sounds like they're trying to, come across better than...
They say it's a little nicer than it really is.
Yeah. But of course,
that's interesting,
if an estate agent is selling, they tend to use the word house and apartment. But sometimes they'll say flat.
It's so funny. I always wonder with the etymology of that stuff where it crosses over from and if it's a recent thing or an old thing. Because we just have so much exposure to England and the US that I think the US would just use apartment, right? They would never say flat.
They wouldn't say flat, I don't think. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Do you want another one or do you want me to switch in?
Go for it.
I feel horrible now. I went difficult. I was like, she'll know all the easy ones. I'll try and go as Australian as I can.
Oh. All right.
The next one I had was a servo.
A servo. Oh, okay. I feel like... Is this a waiter, a waitress?
No. You can have another guess.
Okay. Servo. Is it... Oh, no. It's not going to be that. But I don't know what else it could be. Okay, I don't think it's this, but is it in tennis? Is your servo? No? I'm going to guess
no. That's good, though. That's good. That's cool.
It should be.
I know, that's it. I know, take note, future Australians. It's a service station, so a petrol station.
Oh, okay. Yeah, petrol station is the only... See, for us, a service station would be on the motorway.
Ah, okay, where you pull over.
Well... I don't know. Do you have motorways in the same way? Do you say highway?
We have highways, highways and freeways. Yeah.
Right. So on the highway or the freeway or the motorway, as we would say, you have the service station with the petrol, with a few restaurants, some toilets, generally they're quite nice.
Okay, so it's like that
The
whole
whole complex
group of different shops.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then
okay,
if you just go to get petrol, like you're in a regular town, a normal road, that's just a petrol station. Or sometimes actually we say garage or garage.
See, in Australian English, we would say a garage is where you would get your car repaired.
Yeah,
so
see, we use
exactly.
crossover. We use that for also where you would go to see a mechanic. Yeah,
that's so funny. I guess there are some servos have garages, so you could.
Yeah. And there's a TV show. I don't know if you've ever seen The In-Betweeners.
Yeah, I loved it.
So this is why you know my British slang words, because this is the kind of stuff they say. But there is a joke there, maybe you remember, where one of them, the door falls off the car, and he says, one of them says, "Oh, it's all right. My sister's boyfriend works in a garage." Right? And they're like, "Oh, wonderful, wonderful." And so they don't worry about this door. They leave it. They go to a theme park and then they come back. And they're like, right, let's go to this garage where your sister's boyfriend works. He's like, okay. Where is it? Where does he work? Oh, he works at a BP garage, meaning a BP petrol station. So there's that. That was quite a funny joke with the garage petrol station. Yeah.
See, I don't think I would have gotten that at the time. I would have been like...
Yep, nod and smile.
Yeah, that would have gone to the wicket keeper. All right, what's your next one?
My next one is wasted.
Drunk.
Oh, God, okay. Okay, so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to say a few things. Some of them mean to be drunk. Some of them are like synonyms to be drunk in British English. Some of them are not, okay? Yeah. So guess if
this is where the vocabulary gets pretty verbose.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways in British English you can say you are drunk. So I'll say a few. Some of them will be fake. Some of them will be real. So see if you can guess, because there has to be something. Right. There has to be a small win here. I'm letting my team down.
Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it. You've just been too nice. You're too nice.
Okay then. So I am plastered.
Yeah.
Drunk, yes. That can be, I'm drunk, I'm plastered.
We'd use that as well.
You use the same one? Okay, I am nailed.
No.
No, you're right.
In Australian English, that would mean you had sex.
Same, yeah. But we wouldn't really say that, like, I'm nailed, I've been nailed. You don't really say it.
Yeah, it'd be more, I nailed someone. That's the kind of thing you do to someone else.
Yeah, we say the same thing. I'm hammered.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That means drunk. I'm drilled.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't use that.
Not all the things in the toolbox. You could say, let me think of another one. Rat-arsed.
No, I would never say that. You know, is that one?
Yeah, we would say that. Rat-arsed.
Really?
Last night I got absolutely rat-arsed would be something we would say. I got really drunk. Yeah. Oh, yes. Win.
She got one.
I got one. Rat-arsed. Okay, I'm going to leave it there before I say too many more that you get. That's a good place for me to stop.
All right, one more for me then.
Okay.
Rank.
Oh, yeah. Rank. We say this if it means the same thing.
Yeah?
Does this mean like disgusting?
So you finally got one on me. Yeah, absolutely. That's so rank. That's so rank.
We say that a lot, actually. That is rank. That's rank.
That's true. As soon as you say that with the accent, I'm like, it's an English thing as well.
Do you say minging? It's a bit old now.
I know it, but I think I know that one from English movies or English TV where someone would have been like, yeah, she's a bit minging in it.
Yeah. It's quite old now. People don't really say it now, but yeah, I think kind of early noughties, that was a big word.
Yeah.
Minging. Yep.
Oh, far out. And what about you? You got one more for me?
I do have one more. You're probably going to get it. I'll give it a go. Cock up.
Is that like a mistake?
Yeah. And what's interesting about this is you can use this kind of as a noun or as a verb. So you can say, oh, I really cocked up. Or you could say, oh, what a cock up.
That's one that's definitely, I only know that from English films. I would never use that and don't know that from... But yeah. It's so funny how I have that. I knew instantly what it was, but I don't use that in my day-to-day language ever.
Ah, cool. Yeah, that's quite an interesting one. Oh, cock up. Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
Yay.
Too funny. That's so funny, though. I guess it does kind of say something maybe about, one, how much Australian English is similar to English, British English.
Definitely.
And potentially how much exposure we get over here to British English TV or British English movies. Because I mean, we see so many things like Lock, Stock and Barrel, Smoke and Barrels or whatever it is. And like, I don't know, there's just tons of those films with English speakers. And so we're always picking it up.
It seems as well that the British like films and TV that are made that are very kind of like stereotypically British in terms of the way they speak tend to like export really well. So like the In-Betweeners where they're kind of just sort of London, lots of slang, like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Train Spotting. Well, Train Spotting I guess is interesting because that's set in Edinburgh. So, but that's still one that kind of like I watched that and I can't understand all the words. I can get it. I get the meaning, but the individual words I wouldn't necessarily use them. But yeah, those ones with the big kind of accent places. But then what's interesting as well, I mean, I don't know how this varies for you, is we have a lot of different accents and different regional dialects.
I was about to ask you to touch on that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Australia. It's weird because obviously it's so much bigger. But yeah,
in my head,
this is one of those things I wanted to ask you. How has that maintained itself in England? Because I guess to sum that up, in England, obviously it's a lot smaller and you guys have heaps and heaps and heaps of accentual diversity, however you want to call it. Whereas in Australia, we have pretty much the cities where everyone would speak more general. Like I almost get told that I sound like someone from England because I speak a very neutral form of Australian accent because I have so many foreign friends and I have to sort of dull down the bogan accent. And yet, if you go off into the country, everyone will be like, yeah, how's it going, mate? What's going on? You know, you're going to go down the survey, do all this stuff. And they speak with but that's kind of like anywhere that's just isolated. So it's not a regional thing. It's just if you go away from the cities anywhere in the country, it ends up having that kind of really strong accent. Whereas in England, obviously it changes, right? From you drive 10 miles and you're in a completely different area.
I think that is pretty much, I think there's like a stat. It's either like 12 or 20 miles. And like statistically kind of on average, that's when you'll hit a new accent. Which
it's mind-blowing.
It does. It doesn't make sense to me because when I was younger, when I was growing up, like the way that I speak is generally, I guess, what would be considered like kind of estuary English, which is where you've got London. And even within London, like it goes beyond two. But if you break it down very simply, you've kind of got the east and the west. And the east is like Cockney, you know, you're right, love, down the market, £2 bananas a pound, kind of like My Fair Lady style. And then in the west of London is generally where people speak quite poshly, and they have quite a posh accent. The type you would hear on the BBC,
British
on
English
old broadcasts. Yeah, that stereotypical kind of posh British English. But then when you come out of that, you generally have what's called estuary English, and I think what I speak would possibly fit into that category of like being around London in the south. So I just always heard when I was young, you know, people on TV, on news and whatever, they always sounded like me. And so I just thought, there's me, there's the way I speak, and I don't have an accent. But other people have an accent. So I had family in the north, in Scotland, in Wales. And to me, it's like, they have accents, but I don't have an accent. But of course, this is wrong because, you know, I now know as an older person, everyone has an accent. It's just that we don't notice because it's how we speak. But yeah, like, because you can go... in terms of your question, how is it maintained? Not a clue. Not a clue.
Is it tribalism? Now, I always wondered if it's tribal. You know, you come from a group and you want to sound like the group.
I think people definitely turn it on, and it's very easy to, you know, like to kind of fit in. Like sometimes if I go kind of up north and I'm like speaking in a shop, I'll feel a bit like, you know, they're going to think I'm really posh because I sound like I'm from the south. You know, there's almost a north.
Man, I get that going into the country.
Yeah, you feel like people are going to kind of judge you as being like too stuck up to be there almost. It's weird. Of course, it's not the case. I don't consider myself like posh or stuck up or anything like that. But that's how I would feel. And so you almost kind of alter your speech where you go. So maybe that idea of like sort of tribal elements and pride of where you're from. I think a lot of the places with big, strong regional accents, Liverpool, Birmingham, Newcastle, Bristol, there's a lot of pride of being, no, I'm from Birmingham, I'm from Liverpool. There's a lot of pride there.
Yep.
And maybe that's part of it, is that you want to be like, I'm part of this. This is where I am. But then if I say like Birmingham accent, but if I speak to someone from like Birmingham, from kind of a town on the outskirts, like, oh no, well I speak this way and they speak that way, and then you go into the city and they speak that way, that way, and that way, and they can hear all those other like distinctions that I can't. It is bizarre.
So it is almost
really
like an
bizarre.
ID card, is it? Where as soon as you start speaking, people are like, bam, I know where you're from.
Generally, people will know. I mean, there's a couple that I think possibly are quite similar that might get confused. So like, I think Liverpool and Birmingham, they're quite different, but if I try and impersonate them, I'll probably sound the same. So if I say like, I'm from Birmingham, and in Birmingham it's quite strong, it's a bit sing-song like this. But then in my head that's like, oh, it sounds good, but now I'm going into Liverpool, and in Liverpool it's a little bit similar, but they've got a bit more of a like that at the end of the word sometimes.
Yeah.
Scouse accent.
All right.
They kind of just blend in when I try and impersonate them. But obviously people that speak them, they're like, no, that's not Birmingham accent. What you doing, crazy lady?
That's crazy. That's so crazy. Because it's funny, I have all these people who, obviously the listeners, they're always like, we want to travel to Australia, we want to work in Australia, live in Australia, we need help with the accent because you guys have a really strong, different accent. And then I think, well, how do they go in America and the UK though? When, I mean, obviously you have access to British English and American English, but then when you actually get there, do you meet any ESL learners who get there and they're like, oh my God, I can speak standardized, British or American English. And then there's this plethora of different accents that I have difficulty with, just the same as if they were to come to Australia.
I find it really interesting because, you often, a lot of the time, especially with English learners, I think, their language skills are a lot better than they give themselves credit for. I think if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're learning English, you're a lot better than you think, trust me. And a big thing why people say, oh no, my English isn't good, is accent and pronunciation. Whereas I feel like if I can understand you, that's fine. That's all that matters. And it shouldn't be, I mean, maybe when you're like super, super advanced and, you don't know all the words, obviously, because I don't, and I'm a native speaker, but you've got a really strong vocabulary and you are like, I still want to keep improving, then maybe that is a point where pronunciation and accent really becomes something you can focus on. But for me, it's not something that I have ever cared about when I've learned another language, or that I've ever cared about when I have listened to a non-native English speaker speak English to me. It's also something that I think is quite endearing and kind of curious. It sounds, maybe this sounds derogatory, but it allows you to make mistakes. We were saying earlier the benefit of mistakes, but if you've perfected your accent and you've really gone all out to kind of study the accent pronunciation, it's all perfect, and then you make a mistake, people are going to think, what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Why? It's funny you say that, because I think I saw somewhere where someone said, it's better to have an awful accent but be grammatically correct, or aim for grammatical correctness, than to have a perfect accent and have awful grammar. Yeah. Because you'll pass more as a native, even with a strong accent, if people don't get the hiccups of hearing grammatical errors as often. But if you have a perfect accent and still make massive grammatical errors, then the accent's irrelevant. You still sound very bizarre, and you're going to have the same issues where people are going to be confused because you drop massive parts of the sentence. Absolutely. But communication ultimately is the goal, right? So if someone understands, it doesn't matter if you're perfect or not. You've achieved your goal. Anything else is extra. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how I feel. And so in terms of when I've been working with English learners here in the UK, it's not something that I've ever focused on. And maybe like when I've kind of done group works, or like I've taught like kind of groups in a corporate setting, and they've kind of been told by their employer, go and learn English. Or I've taught like asylum seekers, and they've been told by their kind of carers, go and learn English. They haven't come to me directly, they've been told to come to me. Maybe in that case there are some people in those classes feeling like, oh man, she doesn't teach me how to get a perfect accent, grah. But for me, that's not something that I've ever put much emphasis on teaching. There are some things about the other thing is it also depends on your native language and the languages you already speak.
Yeah.
So I've noticed, there's differences in English pronunciation between Polish speakers and people from Eritrea, for example. They'll have different things that they're more likely to get wrong. So it's quite a difficult thing to teach, especially with a mixed group, which is generally the settings that I was working in when I was teaching English here.
Yeah, that must be so hard to sort of cater for everybody's needs when everyone has such different backgrounds and issues. It must be so much easier to teach someone who speaks German as their native language compared to someone, who speaks Somalian or something.
Especially, and I mean, that's then when I think it comes in handy if you are a teacher and you are also a language learner yourself. Not to the point of like, oh, look, new week and I've got a Somali student. Okay, now I need to go and learn Somali and I'm going to go and, not to that extent, obviously, but just to the point of you understand what they're going through, like we mentioned earlier, and that you can relate.
Well, that's it, looking at the language and being like, okay, they don't have, plural forms of this noun or something like that. And you can be like, all right, I'm going to understand what issues they're going to have.
That's where these mistakes are coming from. It will make sense. Yeah. Definitely
that's it. And it ties back in with an understanding inspirational teacher is really what people need, isn't it? Like you just need a reason to feel impassioned and want to keep going. Whether it's reading comics, being on YouTube, listening to Shakira, as long as you can sort of foster that, that interest.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, well, I've probably kept you long enough. I've got one last question that I guess I want to sort of get in the habit of asking people. Okay. What is one thing that you have been using recently to improve your language learning? What is one technique or one thing that you could give English as a second language learners advice to use or try?
Okay. Things that we haven't already talked about. Like I mentioned, the kind of social media and in particular, like making mistakes and setting yourself a mistake goal. So we've discussed that. So if I'm thinking of something else, I would probably say goal setting is really key. And it's something that when I first started learning languages, I didn't really do too much of, especially when I was in an academic setting, the stuff was given to me and I was told, do this thing. I did the thing and it was done. But especially when you're learning on your own, I think it's really key to have an end goal in mind. So, this is where I'm headed. This is what I want to do, to know why you want to do that thing. And then to kind of work backwards and figure out how are you going to get there? And I have this thing I like to call onion goals, like in Shrek when he's like, onions have layers. And, that thing is in the middle. So let's say that you want to learn 40 new English words a week. So you say, that's my goal right now. That's what I want to do this month. Every week I'm going to learn 40 new words. You say to yourself, how? How are you going to do that? Like a really annoying voice in your head. How are you going to do it? What are you going to do? And you ask yourself that and you say, well, I'm going to use Memrise or Anki. Or how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to set myself a daily goal. I'm going to do it every day. Or how are you going to do that? How are you going to make sure that happens? I'm going to add my new words to Anki or Memrise every Sunday night. And so then all of a sudden that has become, you can see the vision, you can see how it's going to happen. And then work out that sort of daily pattern of how you can fit it in. And when you break things down, it suddenly becomes a lot more achievable. And also, when you're kind of getting these constant wins along the way of you're achieving what you said you're going to achieve, you're going to feel, that long, slow path up the hockey stick, as we mentioned, that's going to feel a lot smoother because you're constantly progressing and you're constantly feeling that progress rather than just, I'm almost there.
That's such a good, Exactly. I think that's such a good analogy of like climbing a mountain and having goalposts or points, that you can at least get to before without just looking at the top and being like it's a zero sum game where either I'm there or I'm not there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. Man, tell us, what are you working on currently? And then give us the details for how people can find you.
Okay, so right now, do you mean what I'm working on with language learning or with Lindsay Does Languages?
Matt, everything.
Oh, everything.
It's all you. Yeah. Give us the details.
Well, right now in kind of language learning, I'm working on improving my spoken Indonesian. I've been doing a lot of sort of book work, especially. I think we discussed before we started the call how I just got married a couple of months ago, so it was like a case of yep, that's Indonesian's not really happening right now. So it's been a lot of book-based stuff that I could do on my own. So I'm now working on improving my spoken Indonesian when it comes to language learning. In terms of business, in terms of Lindsay Does Languages, a lot of planning going on for the new year, really. So I'm getting ready for a huge trip in September 2017. Me and my husband are going to go and travel overland to Papua New Guinea. And we're going to be filming the process, making a film of the documentary, making a documentary film of the journey to find this language that I found a very strange book in my old library. So we're going to go and discover where this language is spoken, who speaks it, and see, if I can learn any of it along the way. So that's everything is kind of heading towards that right now, which is a huge, exciting project. So yeah. Be fun.
That's such a good combination of things too, of like having that travel aspect of it while teaching languages and getting to share that on YouTube. It's really good.
Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. And how can people find you?
So the easiest way is lindsaydoeslanguages.com. And you can also join my Facebook group, which is the We Do Languages Facebook group. Lots of conversation happening in there every day with language learners, English speakers, English learners, lots of cool stuff going on. Yeah. And like you said, YouTube is another place. I try and post a lot of video more or less every week. Not always, but yeah. It's another good place.
Oh man, and they're so good. I'll attach links below or in the transcript, but definitely go check them out.
Oh, thank you.
They're so interesting because you go around to different countries, learn the languages, and then sort of video yourself deciphering them, right? Like as you go around and see signs and you get to see the country. It's very cool.
Yeah, and because I think, like we mentioned, like, why learn languages, like it's about, for me, understanding the world around me. So those videos where I'm kind of going to different places and just figuring out what everything says, maybe I know a little bit of the language that I've learned before, but I probably don't know much. And it's just a case of, right, well, if that means that, then that must mean that, or that sign is across a big shop window and there's lots of 50% offs, it must mean sale. It is just deciphering, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Bye.
See you guys.